This right here is only the beginning of what to expect in the next year. We're going to be talking about this censorship, of course, of the Daily Wire. We're also going to be talking about Tucker Carlson receiving his cease and desist order. We're going to be bringing up the 2024 election, of course, and how this entire thing does matter or how it's actually connected. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about the indictment on Donald Trump one more time, so make sure you guys stick around for the full video. It's going to be a relatively lengthy one.
Trump's prosecution isn't just political, it's ideological. Nobody with Trump's views is allowed to have power in this country. Criticize our wars and you're disqualified. If you keep it up, we'll send you to prison. That's the message Washington is sending. Not just the Democratic Party.
Little girl and say, no, you are a little boy. And they want us to respect people's pronouns, which to me, as I said at the top of the show, is they are asking us to tell a lie, right? They're saying if you want to make money on this platform, you have to agree to this lie. How is it that so many corporations and so many platforms and so many individuals with power are all pushing this exact same lie that represents such a small minority of the population? This isn't about...
Well, what I meant to say was from this day forward, going all the way into 2024. Now, guys, you obviously saw a small tidbit from Tucker Carlson there. Of course, this right here is on his Twitter show, and Fox News, for whatever reason, decided to send him a cease and desist letter. Now, guys, this video right here was supposed to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. It was supposed to be released last Friday, and then, of course, a couple more things occurred. So I decided to split this into two parts. This part right here talking about what to expect as far as certain personalities being doxxed, certain people getting banned off YouTube. Of course, YouTube just now changed the threshold for monetization. I'll be explaining that right there a little bit more at the very end of this video and kind of explaining what I'm going to be doing. That same part will also be spliced in with part two, so make sure you guys stick around for the full video. Now, part two, on the other hand, we're going to be talking a lot about AI and deepfake stuff because there was an incident last week, and of course, one of the guys that we're going to be talking about is featured in this video. Of course, I'm having to use Tim Pool, of course, some of his reporting again because, as I have said on several occasions, I think he is good at reporting the news and everything. I just don't agree with him on certain opinions, and there are obviously some things about him that make him a little bit untrustworthy from time to time, but don't worry, we'll get to that more in the second half of the video. So, Tucker Carlson, he was sent a cease and desist order. Okay? He was sent a cease and desist order by Fox News, and coincidentally, it was on the same exact day that this episode on Twitter came out. Now, there are other people out there. I'll try to find the YouTube channel that actually records these and puts them out so that way you guys can see the full segment. However, you got to understand something right quick about the 2024 presidential election that's coming up. It's not just the presidency that matters. It's not just the nation's direction that matters. It's also the Senate. Why do I bring up that Senate map? Well, let's go back in time really quick. The year is 2008. Barack Obama gets elected president. The election cycle before that, Republicans lost a good portion of their Senate majority, which really wasn't much of a Senate majority, but Democrats definitely controlled the Senate and they controlled Congress. The night that Obama was elected, he was basically given a supermajority. Pretty much a party that would be lockstep in place with him, just passed his agenda. Of course, when Obama was in office, his full agenda was never able to get passed because there were some pieces of his agenda were just a little bit too radical, even for some Democrats. Of course, we all know that Obama is really the reason why we're in the situation today. It all dates back to him, of course, with the wokeness and everything and the whole social justice warrior push. However, that's not what we're going to be discussing in this video, but pretty sure you guys can kind of tell by now that if you've got a massive lead in the House and a massive lead in the Senate, then therefore you will be able to pretty much pass anything if you're actually competent, if the Senate actually likes to go along with what you want passed, if they're actually okay with your agenda. Thank God a lot of this stuff did not pass. I'll give you a great example. Right after Sandy Hook, Dianne Feinstein wanted an AR-15 ban. You needed 60 senators to actually go along with that. Democrats at that time had 53, Republicans had 45, and Dianne Feinstein could not get people on board to go along with her agenda. Also, Obama wasn't even okay with signing that bill at the time, so instead he signed a bunch of executive orders basically limiting the access to firearms for a while, or the ability to sell. Basic stuff like selling a weapon to your brother, stuff like that there, giving your friend one, all kinds of stuff like that there. Basically made it illegal through executive order. And, at the same time, though, a lot of people don't seem to realize that those executive orders have got to be cleared through the Supreme Court. But don't worry, we'll be talking about that in the second video as well. So basically, if you're going to be president, if you want to be able to have the ability to put through an agenda, you kind of need a good-sized House and a good-sized Senate. The previous president, Donald Trump, and by the way, the current president, Joe Biden, is suffering from this as well because he's obviously got Sinema and he's got Manchin, who don't exactly want to go along with anything. Not to mention the fact that you need 60 senators, not 51, to get legislation done. However, the territory is a little bit murky when it gets to 50 and 51 because that's normally for budgets, Supreme Court justices, and stuff like that. And of course, you can blame Harry Reid for that because he's the one who dropped the threshold. And of course, Mitch McConnell gave the ever-famous line, "You will live to regret this," because then when Trump came into office, Republicans were able to add 3 Supreme Court justices. Gorsuch is okay. Barrett's okay. Kavanaugh is very, very weak. It's almost like you have 2 swing justices there with Roberts as well, but I'll digress for the moment being. So the key to this entire thing is obviously the Senate map. If you've got the Senate map, you can therefore control a lot more. By the way, the real swamp of the country, the real deep state, exists in the United States Senate. The deep state itself, for the most part, is not just the agencies, but it's those who actually control the agencies. You see, a senator, if they want to, can actually put in a phone call. It definitely gets much, much stronger from a senator than it is an actual congressman. You can actually do more with that, is basically what I'm trying to say. And of course, senators get elected every 6 years, not every 2 to 4. And at one point in time, if I recall correctly, the Senate could actually be chosen by the state legislative body rather than the actual people itself. Something we may want to look into in the future.
And lock them away in secret where you can't see them because you may be an American citizen, but not really, and therefore you don't have the necessary clearances to know what's going on. And by the way, none of this is done in order to make America safer, any more than COVID restrictions were designed to keep you healthy. No, it's a caste system. That's the point. And you're the untouchable in this hierarchy. Mike Pompeo knows that. Everybody who works in Washington knows that. How many secret documents do you think Dick Cheney took home with him while he was running the Iraq War? How many did his wife read? She never had a clearance. We'll never know the answer because there is no chance Dick Cheney will ever be investigated or his staffers will be told to wear wires in his presence. He will never be indicted for this. Of course not. Dick Cheney is a neocon. Donald Trump is not. Dick Cheney supports war with Russia. Trump does not. That's the difference. The rest is just a distraction. The prosecution of Donald Trump is transparently political. He's literally Joe Biden's main political opponent. He's polling over 60% among Republican voters right now. So Joe Biden is doing what no president has ever dared to do. He's using law enforcement to lock up his chief rival. That's happening right now. Anyone who denies it's happening is lying to you. But actually, it's worse than that. Trump's prosecution isn't just political, it's ideological. Nobody with Trump's views is allowed to have power in this country. Criticize our wars and you're disqualified. If you keep it up, we'll send you to prison. That's the message Washington is sending. Not just the Democratic Party is sending, but both parties are sending. Like so many Republicans, for example, the supposedly conservative governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, spent yesterday totally ignoring the destruction of the...
Trying to take away anybody's power or anything, you've still got Congress, you've still got the presidency, but the Senate is where the true swamp lies. The less swampier a person is, the more inclined you may want to vote for them, and the less swampier that they are, the less likely that they would be to elect someone who is actually very, very swampy. Basically, that's what it's supposed to be. Of course, this part does not always boil down to being the full case, but still at the same time, though, you get in this whole entire situation where, yeah, the Senate actually has a lot more sway than you think. It's the checks and balances section of the government, and if it's corrupted as hell, corruption is more than likely what you're going to get. So you get to this whole Trump indictment thing, and of course I have a video coming out on Wednesday about that and my actual thoughts. And of course it's going to be talked about a lot. Just go ahead and expect this entire indictment thing to go on a lot longer. Now guys, before I go any further, this video right here from Razor Fist will be left in the description box. I love Razor Fist. Maybe you guys watch him too. He does a lot of great content. He brought the fact that political weaponization, as far as indictments were concerned, actually has a recent history here in America. But I think it's better to let somebody from Arizona better explain a situation that, of course, involved the state of Arizona, that there being Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who, by the way, endorsed Trump back in 2016. Very, very weird time. I mean, very, very, very weird situation when you actually think about that Trump would then be the one that would eventually be indicted. But here's the deal. In that video, he explains that it was actually political weaponization against him. There's also been other cases of political weaponization. You could go back to Barack Obama and the Obama IRS going after Tea Party groups. You could go to all that there. Obviously, the political system has been weaponized on multiple occasions, and people are wondering if a conservative ever gets power, will they ever use this type of power to actually go after their enemies? I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you guys. This current crop of Republicans outside of Trump, I really and truly don't think so. And if anybody's putting their faith in Ron DeSantis, I hate to tell you this, I've done a few videos on this showing you guys who his backers are, who were actually donating to him, and of course I've talked about the dissimps, not the DeSantis voters, the dissimps, the online dissimps on Twitter. And the more and more and more they try to alienate MAGA, the more and more I'm convinced of exactly what I've always said or always thought, that Ron DeSantis was designed to be like a Mitt Romney 2.0. Somebody to send up there so that way they can either A, intentionally lose, or B, if they do win, it will be because they were allowed into the White House and therefore more than likely would only have a small to slight Senate majority, meaning that in the most states you're probably going to win, most Senate seats that you're probably going to win when it comes to DeSantis would probably be Nevada due to the natural shift, Ohio due to the natural shift, and of course possibly West Virginia, and maybe Montana, netting you a grand total of only 53 senators. You can't really get a whole lot done with that, okay? So basically everything stays the same. I've talked about this before with the Senate map. Feinstein is vulnerable, even though it's California. Kristen Sinema is vulnerable. Probably going to have 3 candidates running there. Nevada, that Senate seat. Montana, that right there is 4 alone. Colorado, for all you know, which I don't think is going to be in play, but could very well find itself in play, especially if the Democrats continue to screw things up the way they are, especially with Biden bringing down the ticket and his very, very low approval rating. When you factor in that you've got Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, you got a lot of Senate seats where Democrats are in fact vulnerable. And if someone like Trump got a hold of power, what more than likely would occur is that, in that one term, he would probably primary out a lot of the deep state while at the exact same time, because the Senate map is really and truly what matters here. At the exact same time, though, he would probably have the power to actually abolish agencies and stuff like that. And that right there is the real fear here. And we also know there's a lot more there for these people to fear. Just listen to Tucker Carlson talk about our foreign policy and why it was that Trump may have been marked the minute he decided to criticize the whole thing about wars and stuff. So it seems to me like the worst presidents come from the Senate. Of course, I'm not really going to go through all that right now, but still at the same time, one of the things about this country, one of the things that we need to pay very close attention to is our actual foreign policy. Foreign policy dictates a lot. You see, the Biden administration, the minute the entire Ukraine ordeal broke out, they decided to blame the high gas prices on, of course, Russia and Ukraine. Of course, that's not really the case. The minute you decide to pull the permits off the Keystone Pipeline, then next thing you know, the price of gas went right back up. And then, of course, when you cancel out the offshore drilling, that is going to make the price of gas go up more. And then you factor in Russia and Ukraine, it's going to make it a lot worse. Not to mention the fact that you're draining our strategic oil reserve, then clearly, obviously, the price of gas is going to be much, much higher. But the fact of the matter is this right here. It's not just foreign policy, it's the ability to speak out against certain things. And of course, I showed you guys a headline earlier about Candace Owens and Michael Knowles and the Daily Wire receiving a lot of infractions on their YouTube accounts. But of course, only Michael Knowles and Candace Owens were suspended. We'll get to that here in a second because obviously it was Tim Pool who broke the news on that one. But let's just say that some things were said there that quite frankly just does not jive or meet up to par when it comes to the level of common sense if you've paid attention to these people as long as I have. Right. You can't criticize her, right? Now, guys, really quick, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way so that way you guys don't get the wrong impression about me. I am in no way, shape, or form any one of these anti-war conservative, anti-war liberal types. I am the type of person that believes if you're going to go to war, make sure you're actually justified. I'm an Iraq war veteran. I have to hear it all the time that you fought in a war that, quite frankly, we shouldn't have been in. And my response to that is, that's not the way I really and truly feel. Maybe it's anecdotal. Maybe it's just me. I could tell you guys stories if I want to about things that quite frankly they're not going to report in the media and why it is that I still think we were justified for going there. If I lose some of you over that, I mean, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm just going to say right now, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But it's something about my personality, something about me that you're never going to break me of. I'm an Iraq war veteran, and quite frankly, I'm proud of that. Now, looking back on it, could we have handled things a lot better? Definitely. Did we have to release or did we have to ban people who were members of the Ba'ath Party that were actually peaceful? No, we didn't have to do that. But we'll probably talk about that on my backup channel, the more military-related channel, Gear Issue 33, when we start doing stuff like documentaries on military history or video essays on it. The thing is this right here. When you start criticizing the establishment, especially when it comes to wars, and trust me, there are wars that quite frankly are justified. World War I, World War II. I felt Korea probably was looking back on it, even though Vietnam we probably shouldn't have been there. And of course, I just gave you guys my thoughts on Iraq. But you see a lot of conflicts, like say with Russia and Ukraine, we should not be getting involved in. This is something that, quite frankly, Ukraine that should be getting aid from Europe over instead of the United States. We get abused a little bit too much. The fact that we've been thinking about sending people to Yemen on behalf of the Saudi, all this type of stuff right here, it just gets absolutely ridiculous. And the American people have some form of war fatigue. They don't want to go through it anymore. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. Not to mention the fact, would you want to go to war with our current military, with all the social justice warrior stuff and everything that's going on? And the mere fact that Lockheed Martin, of all people, is having pride parades, would you really and truly want to have anything to do? Do you trust these people to actually win a war, especially given the pullout in Afghanistan and all that stuff? I don't think you would. Something that's very, very big at play going into 2024, and both Trump and DeSantis have brought this up. And I got to go ahead and say this really quick. I, on this channel, harp mostly against the wokeness and stuff. Obviously, I'm having to angle the content to try to avoid the censorship, to avoid the community guideline standards. I do intend on, of course, having a much, much larger Rumble channel, BitChute, and Odyssey, but I need to get my platform much, much bigger. Starting a platform straight up raw, and don't worry, we'll talk about it more at the end of the video, because that clip will also be in part 2 as well, because I got to kind of explain what the plans are. But the thing is this right here. When you go through this whole process of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and you're trying to make money, which, by the way, I'm not hurting for cash or money or anything, but still at the same time, it's nice to make money. Obviously, we all want to. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have a direct support link or anything like that. You guys know me. I just ask for a like and share. But the thing is this right here. It's very hard to actually do it. So I'm probably not going to move over there right now, but I'm pretty sure you guys kind of know where I'm kind of going with this. But speaking of Rumble, the thing is this right here. Do you guys remember the whole Steven Crowder ordeal where Crowder basically got into it with the Daily Wire, said he kind of exposed them? I did a few videos on this, and I felt that he did, because he basically exposed what a lot of us already knew about them being in bed with big tech. Well, apparently big tech is starting to hit them, but I think something's a little bit off, and we'll get to it in a second. But let me say this, especially when it comes to the whole Crowder thing. Is it possible that maybe Crowder was hitting on something correctly? Was he hitting on something very, very big? Was he hitting on the fact that maybe the Daily Wire would eventually get into some form of trouble when it came to the topic of YouTube and Google? Just figured I'd throw that out there, because Matt Walsh, he got demonetized and he had to go on Twitter. Shapiro, I don't think, has ever received a community guideline strike. I don't even think Shapiro has even received any form of disciplinary action on his channel. Well, Jeremy Boring put out he put out a nice little statement on it, and we'll get to that here in a second. But here's the initial reporting on what happened with the Daily Wire, Candace Owens, and Michael Knowles being practically censored.
Has been suspended from YouTube over videos about trans issues. Did you think it was going to be easy? With all the culture war victories we've had over the past couple of months, I see cause for hope and optimism. In fact, it looks like the tide's turning rather dramatically. If you've not been following the Call of Duty scandal involving Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman, and Dr. Disrespect, well, then you may not be aware that tremendous victory lies ahead, and it's happening right now. Those individuals I mentioned, they're video game streamers, so they're reaching younger audience. They're very famous with millions and millions of followers, and they're upset over, let's just keep it simple, they're pushing back on a lot of this stuff that targets kids. But of course, we have an election coming up. And do you think the powers that be will sit idly by as regular people say no? They're not going to. So, of course, Candace Owens has been suspended. Of course, we know that other Daily Wire hosts have been targeted. Jordan Peterson had a video removed. And co-CEO Jeremy Boring has issued a statement about YouTube putting their fingers on the scales. Of course they are. YouTube suspending channels like Candace Owens, demonetizing any commentator over this issue, is specifically intended to help sway the election. End of story. That will be maimed and caricatured in the media. And then, just like in those previous circumstances, the few of us with the courage to stand against the tides of pop fiction will be vindicated. Because in the end, truth wins. Until then, of course, she then links to a thread from Jeremy Boring, who says, over the last few months, Real Daily Wire has received around 200 violations from YouTube across our accounts. For Matt Walsh blog, Ben Shapiro, Real Candace Owens, Michael J. Knowles, Jordan B. Peterson, Andrew Clavin, and I'm Brett Cooper. Almost all over coverage of the trans debate. Now, we did, here at Timcast, also get one takedown, just one. And the email we received said that we will not apply a strike to your account, but we are letting you know that we are removing It was actually, no, it was 2 videos. It was a clip and a full episode. I think it was the clip from the full episode. So episode of Timcast IRL, 2 hours long. They said, because of this section, we're nuking the whole episode. And then the clip we made, they said, we're nuking that clip. I find it strange because we could have just added, like, not that I would want to, but instead of taking the video down, they could have said this portion of the 2 hour long full podcast episode needs to be trimmed out. Or they could manually do it and say, we've removed it. Instead, they're like, your whole episode is gone. And that seems, it's completely unreasonable how YouTube handles all of this.
We'll get to Jeremy Boring's statement, and we'll get to the last bit that Tim Pool mentioned, because he talked about the whole AI fake thing, deep fake thing with DeSantis, which, by the way, we'll talk more about in part 2 because it deserves a much, much larger project. But the thing that you have to understand is this right here. When it comes to this topic of 2024, which we'll get to here in a second, obviously you got to ask yourself a question. Who's doing more right now? Who is doing more to help a certain candidate out? Who is doing more of that? Well, that's the thing. Now, guys, I've been hard on Candace recently. Okay, I've even done a couple of videos on this, but Candace is more on the Trump side. Michael Knowles is definitely on the Trump side. Jordan Peterson's been a little bit more on the Trump side. Both of these guys, of course, Trump and Ron, have brought up the whole issue. I got to say it that way. Okay, so you suspended Candace Owens. You suspended Michael Knowles. But you did not suspend Ben Shapiro. You just pulled a video here and there. By the way, he's not hurting for money because it's probably old videos that he's not been watching. Or that nobody's watching. Same thing with Matt Walsh. But you suspend the 2 pro-Trump people. Something don't add up. Let's watch more of this.
Daily Wire, that's why I said it, because it's their Twitter account. I don't know where that puts me in terms of their arguments or whatever, but I wonder if that has to do with why they're not hard striking us. Or maybe it's because I'm a stickler for the academic approach as opposed to the impassioned or invective approach. Not that I'm saying the Daily Wire is pushing any personal invective. I think they tend to be fairly academic. I wonder if, well, I'll put it simply. The reason the Daily Wire is getting hit so hard, I think, is not necessarily even about this. It has to do with the election coming up and the efforts to silence anyone who might support someone outside the Democrats. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Daily Wire seems to be heavy in the bag for Ron DeSantis. I mean, all of these personalities are like, look, Trump is crude, crass, and DeSantis works. And I can respect it. I think DeSantis is great, except for that whole deepfake fiasco. I think they need to disavow that, and they haven't. And so I am mildly perturbed over that. But I will not support a candidate who produces fake images in campaign ads to create a fake perception of their opponent. Fake images in campaign ads to create a fake perception of their opponent. And then they come out and they complain and they're like, Donald Trump, put Ron on a rhinoceros, and I'm like, dude. You're not convincing me. I just literally don't care if you're saying that. You come to me and you say, but what about Trump using deepfakes? And I'm like, a gag with the devil and Hitler and Ron on a rhinoceros doesn't faze me at all. I don't care. Sorry, that's my position. You can say there's a double standard. Literally don't care. They made a video where they put 3 fake images of Trump hugging and kissing Fauci in it. And it said real life Trump above the pictures. Yeah. Sorry. Not playing
like
that
I
game.
said,
But anyway.
we'll talk about the AI deepfake thing in the next video. But Tim, obviously, him leaning towards them thinking that that YouTube is going out of their way to help Trump out, I think is absolutely laughable. Yes, they did reinstate Donald Trump's channel, but the algorithmic profile is not very strong. He naturally on his own gets about 70,000 views per live stream when it comes to Right Side Broadcasting Network. He also gets roughly the same amount of viewership when he's on Fox, roughly the same amount of viewership when he's on Rumble. NTD covers him. A lot of other places cover Donald Trump. Daily Wire never covers Donald Trump speeches. They never have. They've always been in the tank for somebody and not named Donald Trump. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. And, of course, there's this tweet right here where basically Ben said, look, of course, I may be misquoting him, but I'm not going to go play the video because his voice is just too damn squeaky for me. I just can't. I don't really want to associate because, we've already dealt with Ben's anti-Trumpness a long time ago. Now, guys, I'm not just some Trump sycophant or anything like that. I think that Trump's the better option going into 2024 to get what we need done. That's the biggest reason why I want him. And while I was thinking about the DeSantis team, thinking about DeSantis for 2024, the more and more I looked at it, I was like, you know, in his first term, they're just going to be investigating him, making it very, very hard for him to govern the country. And he more than likely would not have a full Senate, where Trump is the turnout machine. He more than likely have it, and that one term is for reform, something that we badly need. Now, Tim, of course, has been going back and forth with us. Like, yeah, I tweet out saying I was 55% for Trump, 45% for DeSantis, but now this whole entire AI thing has got me 100% for Trump and 0% for DeSantis. But like I said, we'll talk about that more in the next video because, like I said, the thing is this right here. If you really and truly think that YouTube is doing everything they can to help Trump out, I have a bridge to sell you, dude. That's not the case. Bro, Tucker Carlson in that entire segment sounded more pro-Trump than he ever sounded before. Is it possible that Tucker may eventually endorse him over DeSantis soon? Is it possible that the people that the deep state continue to try to come after and try to indict? Is it possible that that person there is the one that you want on the ballot? Is it possible that there's a reason why they keep doing this? By the way, they've also just announced that it more than likely would take them over a year to do anything, which makes me think this entire thing was nothing more than an effort to drag it out. The man's making a lot of money in donations and stuff. I mean, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, like I said, we'll talk more about that in part 2 of this video, but I don't think what's going on here is that they're trying to help Trump out. I think they're trying to actually hurt Trump. Jeremy Boring, the Daily Wire, is overtly anti-Trump. I mean, Matt Walsh voted for Evan McMullin and Ben Shapiro stayed home in 2016. I mean, they're not trying to help him out, dude. If anything, they're trying to help RDS out. And like I said before, they may have gotten these channel violations, but nobody got suspended for the exception of Candace, who, by the way, I have been down on recently, and Michael Knowles, probably the only personality over there that I actually like, outside of Jordan Peterson, who's still pretty freaking cringe. But still, you got to ask yourself a question. Are they helping DeSantis out, or are they helping Trump out? It seems to me like they're helping DeSantis out, and I think Tim hasn't caught it yet, but Tim should have actually caught this a long time ago. Then again, at the same time, Tim may just be playing the milquetoast fence-sitter role like he oftentimes does. It's one of the main criticisms that we have of Tim. We're not saying he's stupid or anything. We're just saying this is a reason why people sometimes have a hard time trusting him, not to mention the flip-flops. Fact of the matter is that this right here is what you're going to see in 2024. You're going to see a lot of tribalism, a lot of tribal politics, and you're going to see a lot of people arguing about things. And by the way, I need to say this really quick. The DeSantis people online are touting this poll about Florida. What they don't seem to realize is that this 41-41 is Ron DeSantis is down 25 points from what it was after the midterms when he was at 66%. Cringe people. Very, very, very cringy people. Just extremely cringe. The guy has got a 20 to 30, in some cases even a 40-point lead in the election. I think what Mark Dice said was correct. Maybe what you should do is circle the wagons. I understand that it's a primary and you're trying to run for president, but I think maybe what you should do is circle the wagons and, of course, get behind the guy who's being indicted. Just go ahead and call it what it is and just try to support him all the way through this process. If something happens, I'm pretty sure that there'll be a backup candidate that people can agree upon at the convention, this, that, and the other, in case something does happen, which I personally don't think will. But I think that would be better. Get behind the person, get behind the guy who's running, actually set a precedent, tell your voters that you actually care, which I don't think these people really and truly do, these politicians, but still, I think you should do that. It's pretty bad when Vivek Ramaswamy was the only person to go out there and call things out, and also this guy named Perry Johnson were the only two people to even call the federal government out over the whole Trump indictment, which, by the way, as I've said before, I don't think he'll go to prison or anything like that. I don't think he's going to come off the ballot, but still at the same time, though, what's going on right now is pretty freaking awful. Gang, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share if you think I've earned your subscription. Make sure you guys please hit the subscribe button. This video will not be the only video that comes out tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm even going to be able to get part 2 out. There's a lot more information coming in, a lot more things to report on. I'm going to try to have 2 videos out on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and of course 1 or 2 out over the weekend. So make sure you guys stick around with us. The follow-up for this video may come out tomorrow. I may go ahead and do it tonight. I'm still trying to get all the additional material. The phone was overloaded, so therefore I could not actually... I could not actually keep everything in the phone given the other videos and whatnot. But still, though, make sure you guys share the video, share it with your friends and family. With that right there being said, let me go ahead and give you guys some very, very quick updates. And by the way, these same updates will be in the very next follow-up video on this one here. YouTube dropped the monetization standards from 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. Now, guys, my backup channel, Short Timer Prepping Gear Issue 33, is not that far away from monetization either. And of course, I've told you guys about how it was I was trying to change things. Now, one of the ways that we're going to change things is that we're expecting it soon. We're expecting a bit of an office cleaning here. Basically, the whole background will be gone. And what I plan on doing is making all the content in this corner over here, moving the bookcase over there. And hopefully the idea is to do it from an actual honest-to-God computer desktop. I'm close to getting one. Very, very close, actually. And the place is going to look a little bit different. But the goal was to turn this entire thing, Claymore, into a great big giant network. Now, as far as the name John Claymore is concerned, that right there, of course, will be the name that I'll be going by all the time here on YouTube. Of course, most of you guys who are subscribed to me know who my real name is. You guys know that John Claymore is a pseudonym. I'm not considering it yet, but I was thinking about possibly when we do the content shift as far as video essays is concerned, maybe even changing the name. Not sure yet. I don't want to be deleting any videos or anything like that. That's just going to be algorithmic hell. But the idea was to make a network of channels. Now, guys, if you go to my playlist, you're going to notice some things have changed, okay? And I'll be explaining that further in other videos because it was a lot to write down, and obviously, it's a lot to explain. I don't want to make this video too much longer than it already is. So this section, this clip right here, will be in the follow-up to this video here, and I'll probably have more updates one day over the weekend or next week when we get further clarification on how this thing is going to go with the actual office cleaning here. Once again, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound in the comment section, turn on the notifications bell, and I'll see you guys later.